welcome to Creativity, Brain, Emotional Intelligence and Intuition. My name's Robin Hills. I'm an emotional intelligence coach, trainer and facilitator. I'm the author of 2 books, The Authority Guide to Emotional Resilience in Business and The Authority Guide to Behavior in Business. If you would like to win a copy of one of these books, there is a scratch card on your chair, or you can come and speak to me afterwards. Just scratch off one panel. I am a coach on the Manchester Metropolitan University MBA programme, and I am a member of the British Psychological Society and the Association for Business Psychology. I'm an online course creator, and I have over 250,000 learners in 190 countries taking my courses on emotional intelligence. And here are some of the companies that I've been working with. These are global organizations. So this is the area that I work in terms of emotional intelligence. Now, for those of you who are listening and those of you who can't read, my name is Robin Hills, and I'm very fortunate in that I've got 2 concrete nouns for a name. A robin, the little brown bird that lives in the gardens of Europe, that eats worms and seeds, and hills. So it's interesting, isn't it, how people take in information and how people process information. Because ever since I've had my logo, I've been called Stephen, I've been called Peter, I've been called Brian, Mr. Hill, Mr. Halls, Mr. Mills, and those are some of the polite names that I can repeat that I've been called. When I was designing the logo, I showed it to my wife and she said, "You can't show that, Robin, it's rude." And I showed it to my father and he said, "Well, that's all very well, Robin, but why have you got a seagull on there?" This is my company, EI for Change. EI, Emotional Intelligence. Why is it that the accountants, the banks, the tax office, Companies House, the insurance companies always refer to it as E14 change? Well, they're used to working and thinking in numbers, so I think we'll forgive them. Meet E14C. E14 is a light fitting, and E14C will help me in terms of delivering some of the messages that I deliver. So let's have a look at the brain. What's special about a jellyfish's brain? Anybody? Stunned silence, and that's probably because you know the answer. It doesn't have one. It has a neural network which helps it to react with its environment. It will move towards the light, it will move towards a food source, and what we could say is those are emotions. It is moving from a negative state into a positive state. Now, interestingly enough, as human beings, we have the most complicated, complex instrument in the known universe inside our heads. And this is what keeps us alive, helps us move from negative states to positive states. We also, interestingly enough, have neural networks around the heart. We also have more complex neural networks than a jellyfish around our gut. And this helps us with intuition. We have between 5,000 and 7,000 thoughts a day. That means ever since I've started, you've probably had a lot more than 35 to 48 thoughts, because those are the sort of thoughts that are going through your mind at every minute. I wish he'd shut up. I wish he'd speak louder. Crikey, what was his name? I've forgotten what his logo is. All of these things are going through your mind as I'm speaking to you. These are some of the things that indicate the way in which we work with our heart. And you'll know some of these expressions. I know it in my heart. Have a change of heart. Someone after my own heart. Have a heart-to-heart. So the kind of intuitive thoughts that we have through our heart, our cardiac neural network, will help us to make an emotional decision around whether something is right or not, whether it conforms to our values, whether it conforms to our beliefs. Now, around our gut, it's not quite so complex, and it doesn't have any kind of logical analysis, but the gut network is actually very good at helping us make a simple yes-no decision. A gut feeling, felt it in the pit of my stomach. A gut reaction, I've got butterflies in my stomach. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I've got butterflies in my stomach at the moment, but I'm looking at that as a positive emotion because I need that level of anxiety in order to perform in front of you, and hopefully it'll help you to perform well. So the way in which we take in information is through an external event. Traditionally, we have been advised that we have 5 senses: touch, taste, smell, sight, and hearing. In actual fact, we have at least a dozen more. The feeling that we need to have something to eat, something to drink, the feeling of pressure, the sense that something is not quite right, sense of direction, our relationship with time. All of these are helping us to create an internal representation of an external event. So we filter a lot of this information. We delete information, we distort information, and we generalize. We're not going to be looking at that today. We also run things through metaprograms. Now, metaprograms are the little bits of software that are embedded into our minds from a very early age. And an example of that, not a very good example, but it'll work, is I know how to walk. I put one foot in front of the other with forward motion, and it allows me to move forward. But it's taken a while from a very early age to embed that in. And it doesn't work very well after I've had a few drinks. Also, I know how to construct a sentence in English. I know where the verb's placed. So when I'm actually speaking to you, I don't have to think about walking, and I don't have to think about constructing a sentence in order to communicate with you. These are my metaprograms. I also have a range of values. You have a range of values. I value honesty. I value truthfulness, good levels of communication. I value people who listen to me. These are some of the values that we've got. We also have beliefs, and our beliefs can be very strong, very, very strong in terms of driving our behavior. Religion is a belief. It's a very strong belief. It gives us faith. Other beliefs are, I believe in Father Christmas. I believe blue for boys and pink for girls. Why? 150 years ago, it was completely reversed. So our beliefs can change. And what makes us individual and what makes us unique are our memories. So what happened 10 minutes ago will be embedded into your memory system. What happened 10 days ago will be embedded into your memory system. 10 months ago, 10 years. And all of these will be driving your unconscious thoughts, which will drive your intuition. So these will help you to create an internal representation of the world. The internal representation is useful and it works, but it's inherently wrong. And I'm going to help you to understand that. Just bear in mind, and I believe, that it's good enough. And as long as you believe it's good enough, then that's fine. But our internal representation drives our emotional state, and our emotional state then drives our physiology. That's the rest of our body. So our brain, our heart, and our gut are all interlinked, and they're interlinked with the rest of the body. Nobody is able to see anything that's going on within you at this point. What people see and what people react to is your behavior. And this is what people will determine around you, what it is that they like about you, what it is that they don't like about you. So let's have a look at this internal representation. Let's have a look at how this works. Oh, how many of you can see a square? Where? The square doesn't exist. The square is a representation, or it's represented by 4 Pac-Mans who've been positioned in a particular way. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something which will completely ruin the 8 of diamonds for you. How many 8s can you see? There are 3 8s. 1 8 here, 1 8 here, and look here. How many of you have never seen that before? Have a look at the 8 of diamonds when you look at a pack of cards. It only works with the 8 of diamonds. So it's interesting how we can miss something that is obvious in front of us. Also, we are very good at joining the dots and coming to assumptions. And sometimes the assumptions are right and they work well for us, and sometimes the assumptions are completely wrong. On this occasion, here we have 144 coloured dots. What can you see? Mona Lisa. For those of you who can't see it, does that help? Okay, well, for those of you who can't see it, does that help? Do you remember this blue dress that went around on the internet a few years ago? Here is something which sits on some kind of perceptual boundary. Now, I'm looking at this blue dress and I'm seeing blue and brown, or a blue golden colour. What are you seeing? Because some people will see a white dress with brown stripes, and other people will see a dark blue dress with black stripes. But what you see is right for you. And the important thing is trying to communicate to other people the fact that they may be experiencing something very different. Let's have a look at another example. So what we have here is a checkerboard alternating grey and white squares. On the checkerboard is a green cylinder illuminated by a light source off the screen, and it's casting a shadow onto the checkerboard. Do you see the 2 squares, A and B? What would be your reaction if I was to say to you that A and B are exactly the same shade of grey? You don't believe it? Well, this is an incredibly interesting optical illusion because they are both exactly the same shade of grey, and I'll prove it to you in a minute. What happens is we actually use this optical illusion in order that we can read script, a newspaper, the business show brochure, and we can read it in bright sunlight or in a darkened room such as this one. And what we are actually seeing there is a contrast between light and dark. That's what our brain is picking up on. That's what our brain is recognizing. So what we have got here within this optical illusion is A and B are appearing to you like they're appearing to me as different shades of grey. Now, if I was to take this into an isolated tribe in one of the equatorial rainforests, who do not understand the rules of the checkerboard, they would automatically tell me that A and B are exactly the same shade of grey. And they need to be able to have that distinguishing capability, otherwise they're likely to get eaten or killed. So it's important in their environment for them to see this differently. So let me prove to you, A and B are the same shade of grey. So what I would like you to do is to talk to the person who is sitting alongside you and help them to understand that A and B are exactly the same shade of grey. Over to you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's admit I've set you an incredibly difficult task. And what will have happened, and what I've heard little snippets of conversation around it, is what you're trying to do is to tell the other person what it is that they should be seeing. And often this happens within the business environment. Somebody who is at the top of the business starts telling everybody how they should be seeing things and what they should be doing based around their experience. The only way that you can help somebody to understand that A and B are exactly the same shade is to use an often overlooked skill in business, and that's coaching. You coach the other person by asking questions. What is it that you're seeing? How can I help you to see that these two squares are the same shade of grey? Now, it's interesting, isn't it, how everybody then defaults into tell mode rather than into coaching ask mode. Here we have two gentlemen, and on the left over here is a gentleman from the African subcontinent, and over here we have a gentleman from the European subcontinent, or the European continent. What is probably happening in your brain is that because you're aware of the physical features of the gentleman over here on the left, is that your brain is actually starting to increase his skin tone so that this gentleman over here seems darker than the gentleman over there. Is that what you're seeing? I'm just checking that. Most people are nodding, which is a good indication. In actual fact, these two gentlemen are exactly the same shade of grey. And what's happening here is that your brain is altering your perception based around your knowledge of physical features of this gentleman over here and that gentleman over there. So we've got to be very careful, because this is where generalizations creep in. This is where prejudices start to happen. Here we have an image of two people. They're different shades of grey. What would you say the gender is of the person over here? Those of you who think it's female, put your hand up. Those of you who think the gender over there is male, put your hand up. I see some people putting their hand up twice, and they may be right. This is probably exactly the same person. This is done with filtering and with photographic filtering, which is just altering things, which changes your perception. Now, in our cultures, women tend to put makeup on to lighten and soften their skin tone to make themselves more beautiful. And in the majority of cases, it works, and it works well. But I don't know what the gender of this person is at all, because I can't see the right bits. And I'm not being crude here. Well, I suppose I am to a certain degree, but I can't see anything else to give me an indication as to what the gender is. The hairstyle, the way in which they're holding themselves, their clothes. So here we have another example of where prejudices and where generalizations can creep in, and we've just got to be very, very wary of them. How many of you here can see 10 dolphins? Now, here we have an image which will be driven by your experience. Those of you who have enjoyed adult relationships will see something else. But if I was to take this into the local primary school, they would automatically tell me that there are 10 dolphins. Well, we're actually in Canning Town, so I'd be a little bit wary of that. But anyhow, I don't know what it is that you're seeing, but I can see 10 dolphins. So, a couple of things just to finish off. Emotions are emotions that we experience all the time. Now, most of the CEOs that I speak to want their people to be happy. which is great. But why are they then creating an environment of fear because they're angry all the time? Do you really want all your people to be happy? The answer is no, because people who are happy will take unnecessary risks. They help with creative tasks. They're likely to be a lot more original. They generate a greater number of arguments or options through their happiness, and they give a broad overview. They're very receptive and very positive. But have you tried communicating with somebody who is deliriously happy? Hello trees, hello grass, hello flowers. Oh, don't worry about last quarter's sales. Just be happy. It doesn't work. However, what we need is to be able to help people to become a little bit more grumpy. And I don't mean angry, because people are more careful and systematic in their approach. They generate better quality arguments. They're a lot more detail orientated. They have this bottom-up focus, and they focus on what won't work. They can become critical. But the important thing is to get the balance between happiness and grumpiness right. Just leave you with a few takeaways to take away today from today's talk. Everyone's got different experiences. Other people's perception is their reality. What do people understand about creativity and intuition? Ask them. Intuition may be difficult to put into words. Different ways of seeing things may not be wrong. Logical processes are as important as creative processes. How can you use emotions to help creativity and work with intuition? You need a degree of grumpiness to check whether the idea will work. But you don't want people to be so grumpy at the beginning of the process that they just don't engage people. It happens. Allow time for creativity to take place. Dare to be simple. And finally, how can you ensure your culture is conducive towards creativity? Come and see us at stand B1242. Get a lot more information. Have some fun with our scratch cards. I look forward to seeing you. Thank you ever so much. My name is Robin Hills.